Welcome back to the Xfinity Analyst Desk here of ESL Pro League Season 6. I am Stunna. I am your host here in sunny Southern California, Burbank to be exact. I think we're dodging some wildfires out here. I'm joined with Blue and the Bears and
the world.
The rest of you at home. I think that goes without saying. We got some great matches for you guys tonight. We're going to take a look at the schedule and kind of break down what we're going to be looking at. We've got Renegades and compLexity up first, followed by Optic Gaming and Splice thereafter. Now, there's a lot of people trying to get eyes on this new Optic lineup. There's a lot to be said about this new Optic lineup. But most importantly, Blue, what do you personally think about this Optic lineup?
You're just throwing it at me there.
Right,
all right.
right. No pressure. Anything you say is on record.
Big highlight on the Blue there. Oh, thanks, man.
Just shake me off.
Should I step up?
Step up, man.
No, no, this Optic roster has a lot of potential behind it, right? The thing is, they haven't really been tested yet here in the online league because their first two teams they went up against were teams that had just kind of moved up in the league, and this is going to be another one here, Splice, that haven't really had an opportunity in Pro League just yet. So I feel like they should have a pretty easy time taking control of that matchup, just looking at the reputations of those two teams alone.
Looking at those two teams alone, we have in front of us the Optic lineup. We do see HS, Mixwell, Alu, Freiburg, and Magus. Now, some heavy hitters here, some big names, especially when you look at this sort of matchup. I don't want to call it the David and Goliath of the day, but I do believe Splice are going to have their work cut out for them.
Yes, they are, and I'm curious about Magisk Boy, see how he's going to transfer over here, new team. You know, he's off in North, so I want to see if he can keep his rage intact. You know, when something doesn't go wrong, doesn't go his way, he's not Hulk smashing everything, and that he's able to, you know, move past.
Did you see that rank S clip? He's doing pretty good already.
Is he really?
Yeah, he just randomly deagling people from Team 8 on train, so he's getting his practice in. Seems like he's warmed up to the region pretty well already.
Sounds pretty standard. Maybe it's that delirium of travel setting in. Who really knows? Am I right? Looking at Optic, though, I mean, we could talk about this international sort of lineup coming together and trying to be the best of the best, having to compete here in North America. But let's flip the script. Take a look at the Splice lineup. Now, Splice is certainly one that has been primarily, I believe, a head-scratcher. I mean, these guys, you can see some veterancy in Simphis, Roka, and Davey, but primarily unknown, I believe, would be Jerome and Mitch. What's going on with Splice?
Well, can I call them the comeback kids here? Because they were once in the Pro League, they got knocked out, and now they're back. We got Simphis, who is, I believe, is the, well, actually, no, is it Davey now the in-game leader? People just keep switching in-game leaders all the time. I believe it's Davey now.
I think it is.
I think it's Davey. And so with Roka, hopefully with him, he was known for being a repetitive kind of player, always doing the same thing over and over. Hopefully he learned. He better learned well if he wanted to do well.
He's good. If not, he's probably going to, I think, learn today. I think I'm kidding. But looking at these guys, they did qualify for the Pro League through Mountain Dew League, which, if you're unfamiliar, is really the way to do it. You go through, you play through the Global Challenge, and Splice, having won last season, have now qualified and are now competing here in ESL Pro League Season 6. So wouldn't be necessarily the team people are going to be, hey, let's look out for them. These guys, they're the team to watch this season. But I do believe that there's a chance. I believe that a player like Davey, having probably the most consistency on this team, may be enough to bring to the table.
You can't count them out with the experience of actually playing in the league and learning a lot and what not to do from their previous seasons. That I think that they'll have the experience to actually, you know, maybe not finish last place, maybe more mid-tier of the pack. Actually, I think Splice might turn some heads.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll have to see, right? Because they had some pretty good online results leading up to that MDL final, a couple of upsets there, if I remember correctly, too. But it's just they've been like really quiet since then. We haven't seen this team at all, at least in my eyes, going up against any like Tier 1 or Tier 2 NA competition. And since that MDL final, that was like a couple months back now, so they might be a little bit rusty with that regard. Especially going up against Optic now, which has this like super all-star European lineup. So it's might not be the best way to start things off here.
Speaking of Optic as an all-star European lineup with tons of potential and time to prove it, they are sitting at 4-0. Is this a team that we're going to see go undefeated? Is it out of the realms of possibility?
I mean, I believe anything's possible, Trace, but I find it highly unlikely until they get really tested by one of the top echelon teams, you know, like SK or Immortals or something. You can't really say that, you know, 4-0 is a great start, but still, it's the beginning of the season. Anything can happen.
Top 3 end of the season, I'll call it now.
Top 3. That's right. His name is Blue, and if he's wrong, you are able to public shame him on Twitter. I'm personally, I'm fine with that. I don't know that Eric has a problem. Blue might.
I'll probably hop in. Shaming.
Just a couple retweets here and there.
Let's
Let's really
throw
throw fuel on the fire of the hate train. It's like the internet mob mentality sometimes, right? It's kind of wild how it works out. But that will be our second matchup of the night. And our first matchup, however, will be the Renegades versus compLexity. Now, a matchup which has many asterisks and a lot of things to kind of look at in terms of what kind of brought these teams to the situations they're into today. But certainly one where I do believe that Renegades will be the favorite going into this one.
I think so. I think with the addition of NAF, it's going to be a huge boost in their game. When we were watching Jay-Z walking 2 weeks ago, he felt kind of awkward in the lineup. It looked like he didn't know what he was doing or how he would fit in the game plan. So I think NAF is definitely a better pickup. And I think Renegades could be the dark horse of this league.
Well, I mean, this is a team that has seen its problems with consistency, right? I mean, and that stems back probably to, as far as I can remember, maybe DreamHack Winter. I think they might have saw their former success there. But Blue, what is the real problem here behind this Renegades line?
Well, they got at that DreamHack winter. I think they got to like the semifinals, if I remember correctly, before they were finally eliminated towards the end of it. It's just it seems like so many roster changes, especially recently too, has really put them back. They have really good online results. They've basically qualified for the LAN finals of this league for the past 2 seasons. It's just the timing of other events has been a bit unfortunate the way that's worked out. So they've had to skip it both times, but they've always been there for online games. Just they have a really big problem with translating that to LAN play a lot of the time, it seems. Despite some kind of, off-tangent LAN results, like you said, with DreamHack Winter and whatnot, we really don't see them impress that much, and oftentimes they just end up with an early group stage exit.
Maybe they need a shoey, right before the match, just take a shoey, take one down, and let the nerves out.
I was kind of bamboozled about what a shoey was when I saw it in Cologne. I imagined these guys, they'd been wearing these shoes all day, right?
Yeah.
So not only is drinking a beer out of your shoe a little questionable, to say the least, but you got to think that shoe is warm. You've been wearing it all day long. Probably smells a little terrible, but hey, that's the culture, right? That's what it's all about.
Adds flavor to the mix, Little.
All right.
But
moving swiftly on.
Moving swiftly on, because I don't personally like to drink my beer out of shoes. Looking at Renegades, though, here in Malmo, they were able to defeat a Virtus Pro. They did go 2 against Navi. But even when we say, okay, they picked up a W against Virtus Pro, it's kind of hard to give them full credit knowing the state that this Virtus Pro lineup's in, knowing that they're not firing on all cylinders. A win's a win, but at the end of the day, where's this team going to fall?
Well, they did barely lose to Navi on terrain, which is one of the maps over here. So, I mean, the ups and downs you said, as you guys were talking about, it could be a nerve thing. They have potential. They have chemistry. They just have to, to stop thinking so much and just do it.
I think you also have to take into the equation that playing with Jaywalking Z, knowing that NAF is inbound, and sort of the mentality of the team there, knowing that, hey, this guy's not going to meet our team. There has to be something there to be said about that. But moving on, let's talk a little bit about compLexity. Now, the last time we saw compLexity in any sort of dominant form has been quite some time. But walk us through this lineup.
Well, we got Def, Android, Slemmy, Yaster. Who I've never heard of him. I'm willing to see how he will do. They got Peter back from Old NRG. He decides to hop on the compLexity terrain, so there is some potential, but we could see, are these guys able to work together? It's a chemistry there. The chemistry could be there. I think Slemmy as an in-game leader has a lot to offer in terms of structure to the team that otherwise may have been missing it entirely. Because before Slemmy, I do believe they were even in a worse position than they are now. But this lineup, is there potential for them to do big things?
Like I was saying earlier, I feel like they can make it up to kind of like middle of the pack of the league this season. Hopefully not hanging towards the bottom again like we see every single season from compLexity. I'm kind of hoping with this roster they can push up a little bit. Ye is definitely, I think, a wild card to a lot of people, since most people probably really don't know who he is. He's kind of hopped around Premier. He has a pretty short history as far as I was able to find. I think it only goes back to like early 2015 as far as CSGO teams are concerned. I think even like his ESL profile was only created in 2014, so he hasn't been around for a long time. But for whatever reason, compLexity had seen something in him, hopping around through many different teams in Premier, and was able to bring him up to this level. And now, of course, Peter joined in the fray as well. At least for the online portion of it, it's definitely going to be a good pickup for the team overall.
Looking at this team, they are sitting outside of the top 30 of HLTV.org. Is this sort of something where Slemmy and Warden can kind of come in and say, hey, we're going to do something this season. We're going to make an impact. We're going to make a change. We're going to bring Ye in and hope that we can bring some new light to this team. But is it going to be enough, Eric?
I think you can plan all you want and have the what you can do, what you can't do, but it's all going to come down to executions and how they perform in game. And with Ye being the new addition, I mean, I want to see what he will bring to the team because I don't know. I have no idea what this kid's all about.
Like what he's capable of.
I have nothing.
And largely, I think that is the X factor. No one can say for sure.
Yeah, I think the highlight player, because I have been able to see Ye play a few times, and I mean he's had like decent performances. He hasn't done anything too crazy though. I still think the highlight player of this team is still Android, especially in anti-eco situations and whatnot. If you put a deagle in hand, the guy is absolutely crazy. And then in rifle rounds and whatnot too, still shows up plenty of times. So he's still the highlight player for me on this complexity roster.
Now our second map between these two teams will be Train, but the first will be Mirage. Now, are there any clear-cut favorites going into Mirage between these two teams, or is it one of these things where I'm going to flip a coin, Renegades could be tired from travel, who knows, Ye could be online. We don't know. We'll find out, right? So what do you think, Blue?
I still think Renegades are going to take this pretty handily simply because this has always been a Renegades map. They've always had a lot of focus on Mirage, making sure that they're very well set up to play on it. And I think because of that, they're going to have a strong presence here. For the complexity side of things, they've toyed with Mirage here and there. And yeah, I still don't think that they bring like a lot of really good strategy to the table. So I feel like Renegades is going to outclass them in that regard. But as you were mentioning, they've had a lot of travel and whatnot they've been doing recently. So that could throw them off balance and let complexity come back and steal this map from them.
Kind of also have to take into consideration too. I mean, going into this weekend now, we're going to be going into DreamHack Montreal. So you have to think maybe they've upped the preparation not only for Pro League. They do have a LAN to go to. Is this something where like, hey guys, we're going to go all in. We're going to see this one. We're going to try to bring this one home for the team.
I think so. I think with Team Renegades, after coming back from Europe, playing against those high and Tier 1 teams, going to come back to America and play Team Complexity, and they might be caught off guard just a little bit in the fact that it's not as hard as it was in Europe. You're playing against Navi and all those good teams, and now you're playing Complexity.
Well, just to kind of bring it full circle, right? Let's take a look at the Betway odds, though, to see who the clear favorites are here. And I believe it goes without saying. You've said it. Renegades are the team to kind of watch out for in this matchup, being that they should be the more dominant force in this matchup.
Yeah. I would say that's pretty accurate. That's pretty correct. We'll pull you up on the screen there, Hello. I mean, complexity, 2.5. It's not bad for them either. That's something I'd take, to be honest.
Anything's possible. It's just highly unlikely.
Highly unlikely. Don't want to say it. Don't want to crush hopes and dreams, but I do have a feeling. I still think that the travel thing could possibly be there.
That's the big kicker for me too. Is I feel like 9 days out of 10 Renegades does take this map, but I feel like with travel and whatnot getting in the way of them, that and obviously and a new player too jumping into the mix there, and still having to adjust for that. That could be the two major things that really throws this over to Complexity's favor for this first map anyway.
And just to clarify, there they will be coming back from Malmo. I was in the airport with them last night. From Malmo now to home to Atlanta. And we're going to go and bring the commentators in now and get their thoughts, kind of tie this one in. What are you guys thinking for this matchup, Complexity Renegades?
I have a question for you, though, first, Trace.
No, probably no answer.
How much sleep did you get?
I don't know my name right now.
Okay. So Renegades are probably pretty tired then.
There's a chance. The travel itself, the airports are great. Like I said, Joe and the Juice really got me going. But I think that it's probably going to hurt them when it comes to later in the day. Because not only that, I think they went back in a time zone. I'm not sure. And then they're going to go forward again to the East Coast time zone. So I think it's going to catch up with them.
Going back in time.
Something about the DeLorean I got parked outside. We're going to hop in it and go at about 88 miles an hour. But not before we go to a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to go into our first matchup of the night. It's going to be Complexity and Renegades here at the ESL Pro League.
ESL Pro League is brought to you in part by Intel, the City of Odense, GeForce GTX, Lenovo Legion, Bedway, Pay Safeguard, Logitech G, Mountain Dew League, Xfinity, and ESEA.
Thank you for staying tuned, ladies and gentlemen. It's the ESL Pro League. It's week number 2, and it will be compLexity versus Renegades on Mirage to kick things off. Launders, I know you've been excited to watch compLexity all season long, and tonight is the night.
Yeah, I want to know what you know, because from what I know, the compLexity of CSGO has just been a history of bad results, poor showings, time and time again, barely staying in Pro League. But this time around, I've heard from both you, a little bit from Blue, that there's more potential in this lineup than we've seen in previous ones.
Yeah, I think that one of the edges we have is actually that, you know, Blue and I are the kinds of guys that do occasionally cast things like qualifiers for events and whatever not, and that
you're both like up and coming.
Yeah, well, he's much more up there. But as far as results go with compLexity, I think that it's starting to shift away from the compLexity that has failed as of most recently. You look at the current lineup, right? You still have Android X23, who has always kind of been praised as like the star of the player and somebody who could tap his potential. You include Slemmy to this conversation, someone who's being praised as one of these, you know, potential in-game leaders, and that he's able to bring structure to the team. You throw in Yaster, who has this potential, so they say. Again, massive question mark. But then add Peter, an opper that I think is fantastic and actually has a chance at kind of elevating this team as far as op play goes. The only player that then remains from that kind of core of past would be Def, having his British brethren ripped away, Surreal moving back, and whatever not. I think that it's just like there's been enough of a transition now with compLexity that something can arise. I don't know if it's going to happen, but even so far in this season, we see them dominate Rogue in their opening first 2 games, and then we see them face versus SK, the best team in this division, and still make up an average of 10 rounds per map in that BO2. So I just feel like they haven't really had the opportunity to prove that they're going to be that middle of the pack team, but I certainly believe, alongside Blue, that they could damn well do it, Launders.
I think Def is, for example, very, very good player who hasn't played that well, and I think that a lot of people in the UK scene thought that bringing over Def was a great idea. Bringing over Surreal was kind of a questionable decision. We did see Surreal actually play pretty well, a lot better than I expected. But I think maybe role-wise he didn't fit in quite as well. I'm glad they stuck with Def, however. And then on the in terms of the other players, Android X23 is an absolute beast. He is an absolute monster. I totally believe in this guy, and I think that it says a lot about him that he stayed on compLexity, because there have been seasons where I'm like, how is he being held? It felt like I was watching Electronic, you know. It felt like, why are you still on this team, you know, when overall the team's not doing too well. But it's great to see that he stuck with it. He was clearly loyal to them. I'm sure he got offers left, right, and center, and now they put together a lineup where it's hard to find a hole in any one of the players, and they do have the leadership as well to kind of tie it all in.
Yeah, the only, again, remaining thing with compLexity is, to me, it's not necessarily a hole, it's currently a question mark, and that, again, being Yaster. He has very little experience, very little proven so far, but could very well have the potential of another great North American player. So I think that in terms of compLexity, that's what's really going into their, you know, their favor here tonight. And we've touched upon the desk already. Renegades are in a really tough spot. They just came back from travel, having fixated on Malmo with a different 5th player. I think Nafly is a great addition to the team. I think that he's kind of going to be that solution in terms of player roles that's just going to fit in very nicely with this lineup. But they're already focusing on travel tomorrow. This is their one day where they have to, you know, kind of have an opportunity to recuperate, and instead they're going to be in server trying to duel off versus a compLexity that, again, as Stunna mentioned, is fixated on DreamHack Montreal coming up this weekend. So you have one team that's kind of gelling and has been fixated on you know, a big opportunity for them moving forward, and then you have Renegades who are just in this very awkward kind of transitioning period. But time will tell, and that's exactly what we've got here on our hands, Launders. The opening pistol round.
I think the truly tough part for them is that for Renegades, this match is just as important as any other. This will carry with them over the next 3 months, and having travel in between games is not going to be something that they can just write off. They're going to have to be used to it. So hopefully they do get over the hump right here and now, and even though they just came back from travel, maybe that experience will allow them to achieve good results.
Again, opening up on Mirage as well, a map that's always been in their pocket, so certainly cannot count them out just as of yet. However, we do count out JKS. Peter able to remove him at a distance through the top of the smoke at jungle. But in the meantime, Renegades have been able to take the A site, put 3 players into the after plant towards Ticket, and now respond back with a frag and the long lurk coming in. So this core of T's just needs to stay standing, and Nap's going to do exactly that. Ustillo dropping 2, and the removal of the last man gives the pistol to Renegades.
We saw a Slemmy die up at stairs, and that was from a player in CT. Renegades with 3 people in CT. I think it was understood for compLexity that they weren't taking positions like A-Ramp and Palace because they didn't smoke that box off. So once players had pushed there and they understood that, there might have been a little bit of overstepping your boundaries by going up to the top of stairs. It's hard to say. I think Renegades are very smart, however, to watch their backs in that sense and completely crush compLexity, who I think, if they were a little bit more careful, would have just waited for the CT push to come out or tried to crunch all those players in CT when they were almost certain that there was going to be more than 2 people there. Now we move into an anti-eco. Renegades are set up in B apps. There is one watching top mid. Obviously, everybody's holding for pushes. We see compLexity in a kind of concave around mid, making sure that each of the choke points are secure from the inside. And this is a setup that is really nice for attacking when a team decides to go mid on an anti-eco. I don't know if we'll see that from Renegades. We see the bomb posted up near B apps and all 4 players on this side of the map as well.
Of course, if those T's do start to pry into middle, that's when we can expect compLexity to just kind of try to collapse upon them, right? They've got those 4 players already in a great position. Android's still keeping an eye over on the B site, and he's the player you really look to in these kinds of rounds. So deadly with the Deeg. But it's Ustillo to open up. Finding Slemmy and Connector. Now the CT is starting to try and fight. They're able to capitalize with 2 quick kills, make it 3. Def with the CZ, and then another. It is only Azza. And as he comes back in from the B site, he's lost his team, he's lost the bomb, but it is still 1v2. Android to the top side, the next man to fall. He swaps to the AK and has a chance to clutch 1v3. But it's still Def underneath, looking for a 3rd kill of his own. 0 bullets in mag. He has nothing.
He won't find a gun back here either. If he goes around a top mid that he knows he can find a weapon, he would love to cut off Azur B, knowing that he's on Cat, but at the same time has no opportunity to win the round if he does that. So has to play the long con now. And after finding a gun, 10-second defuse on his hands, at least full armor to his name, will come up Cat and try to take this fight.
Now this gun's got 11 shots in it. As you said, 10-second defuse, so he's not going to have much time to play with. As is posted on door, he should have this, and Def doesn't check it, but he falls off. Def's going to keep going in off of the flash. Azza peeks back, and now Def's able to cross, tapping the bomb once, forcing Azza's hand as he just whips back towards bench. Taps some shots, and Def will find it. Still time to defuse. That's compLexity with the force buy.
Yeah, that was extremely well played, and it's going to come down to the wire here, but Def's going to get the defuse. Very close round. Good anti-eco overall, at least from compLexity's perspective. And that was a bit of a weird plant because it pulled him all the way out of the place that he planted for, which means he could have found a better spot. But here we have the attack on mid from compLexity, and just as we talked about earlier, wow, nice shots from Def. Not even just getting that 1v1, but those 2 other CZ kills. And here we see that positioning be a problem because he gets pulled out of the position that he could have planted for if he had the mindfulness to do so, but doesn't do it. Now we move on to a new round. compLexity have a full buy, 3 rifles, Renegades with 3 CZs, and have opted to get head armor on those players with a full set of grenades. It looks like a B attack is on our is what we're in store for. And there's a smoke to go out for Get Right. Everybody charge into the site.
Yeah, flashbangs start parading forward. Ustillo's in sight already. Android stops him, but Azza swings it with 2 of his own. Doubles down off the headshots as the single AK currently standing. Excellently done, but here comes Slemmy. Flashing his way forward, but he's dropped. Azza finally quelled as Yaster responds, and now it's just down to PTR. He's got the AK and an opportunity to push this bomb site. Knows Nifty's to the benches, so he stops him first. JKS up next. And as he rounds this corner, the shoulder covered. Peter's just going to try and creep. He hears the footsteps. Oh, he knows, but he cannot take the kill. It's JKS with the clutch, and Renegades bounce back.
Wow, Renegades just steal it right back with a full B hit, and again, it comes down to the 1v1. As we see, Peter was extremely intelligent in this 1v1. He knows that this player is probably behind the pillar on default, which is one of the last 2 places you would expect to look besides Van. And obviously hearing now JKS crossing wide as he tries to get a better position. JKS in the dark makes the right play and moves at the perfect moment. So now we go back to another anti-eco setup from Renegades. And another criticism I wanted to bring up in the second round was that like going mid on these anti-ecos, this always seems like a liability. And for them to do it so late as well seemed especially strange. And for them to get punished for it, it's not surprising to me. So now we have Renegades, instead of, I guess, busting out mid-late, they have decided to set up at top mid-late. I just hope they don't get all the way down to connector side. compLexity, however, not expecting them to do the same strategy as it kind of blew up in their face, which is, I think, a smart adjustment.
Now, at what point here does compLexity decide to give up on this? Do they just wholeheartedly hold it? Or at some point, off of some kind of a trigger, should they do something like this and go more aggressively towards round?
It's just as much of a gamble to stay put as it is to move. And I think off of very little information, you're just going to go off of hard reads based on what you know this team likes to do. And in this circumstance, they are starting to get a little bit more frisky, look for information. And now that they've pushed a ramp, are hoping that Renegades are actually going to run back. I'm surprised to see them anti-eco walk up mid. That seems like such a risky thing to do, but now it's just Lemmy and B hearing all these footsteps.
Up close, tries with the P250, but it's just not to be. Renegades already finding those 2 frags. They've got the entirety of compLexity on the other side of the map, so it should be minimal losses. Unless Nafly goes down. He does only have that 18 health. Ustillo sits on 50. And eventually they'll have to try and exit, but JKS opens up an opportunity, finding Peter to the backside, Yaster taking Nifty, and Def finding another. These pistols panning out for compLexity, regardless of rounds lost, at least more damage done.
Yeah, there's at least some damage done. That's really nice. And Renegades keeping 3 alive is also kind of nice for them, considering they were able to steal back this round and put themselves in position to have compLexity double save, winning that race that race to the bottom of the force buy versus force buy meta that we see in the early game sometimes. Now compLexity have decided to invest in just a few upgraded pistols, including a couple of deagles on Def and Android. Naf is going to lead his way up A ramp pretty quickly and look for information. Doesn't spot anybody, but everybody from Renegades has moved quickly in this round. 2 are already in connector.
Yeah, this is just going to be a collapse into the A site if they call it in. Def removed to the top side of Palace, leaves only 2 players standing. So, as expected in this one, compLexity just going to have to take it on the chin. And we spoke about their pistol success. This time they find nothing. All 5 players survive, 3 of which with full utility still. So Renegades definitely bolstering that cash flow as far as they're concerned. But they should be concerned, seeing as now compLexity have their guns.
And now with a full gun round, it's Ustillo to actually hang on to a UMP in this round, surprisingly. And in terms of what their strategy out the gate is, we got a default to top mid, bombs left and spawn. We know that this is going to be a long con for that reason. And everybody else is in pretty standard positions. You can typically just send 1 person to B because the push through apps might be accompanied by an extra player, but there's no 2 choke points like you have at A to have to watch from spawn, especially if you want to push up. And now the underpass push, Azur's going to take quick connector control. No one to contest him in this situation. He's going to be able to stay put here. And this allows for a 4-1 split if they want it, or a 3-2 if they go back, but are still with 1 minute and 20 seconds left, sitting tight.
Yaster has no vision here on window. Ustillo waits for this peek, anticipates it at that, as Def hopes for someone to push up Cat. Right now, compLexity again prepared to try and box this in, but here comes Azza, already punching his way in. compLexity finding 2 quick kills, leaves it just down to Azza. Peter off of the op, grabbing those last 2, and leaving him on his lonesome. Bomb dropped to the feet, but he spots the shadow, so he knows Def is above here. Should be an easy frag if he catches the timing, but Def falls down, and compLexity win a round.
Def seems like he's incredibly on point right now, hitting quite about everything that he's aiming for. Surprisingly, in that round, we see so much money left on the Renegades, but they didn't invest a lot in utility, or they did but didn't actually use it. Instead, they decided once they got all that control really early on in the round to try to continue with a quiet A split, and I feel like they could have afforded to use a couple of smokes. Peter wouldn't have had open lines of sight to take his shots from if they had, and they should have pressed that utility advantage. Now, I'm not sure why they opted not to do that, but we see this kind of loose defaulty style result into some good rounds, especially in situations where you're not sure if the team has mollies left. I'm not sure if that in their minds was one of them, but it obviously cost them the round. Similar setup here. We have Azza underpass, 3 top mid, and Naf in Palace, but they haven't actually pushed into connector as quickly as they did in their previous round.
So again, playing the same strategy, but just toying with the timing. seeing if they can make it work out this time round. Azza again gets into the corner, but Slemmy's going to get aggressive. Def by his side, and oh, they could cut this off. 3 players from Renegades pushing in, but doing so cautiously could hold them up. They do spot the first, but Slemmy lines 2, peeks for the third, and sprays him down. Drops the bomb in the process and leaves Renegades alone at A because they've taken down Peter. Removing him from spawn, takes this to the 2v3, and Azza's behind them. So he taps away, taking Ye, and leaving it back in an equal 2v2.
This is kind of a tough situation where they know where the bomb is. compLexity, and on the one hand, have the opportunity to push anywhere, but we can see that they're playing it quite safely. So the only thing working in their favor now from that regard is that Renegades have to pretend as though they have to give him that respect. Now Android sees he's going to have to take a fight here. Oh, and is in a position to get 1 kill. Azza, even after throwing his nade, is able to get the headshot and take him out. No problem. What a recovery after Slemmy with a huge play here at A ramp. His teammate giving him that much info and him getting 3 kills in return. Such big stuff.
Big play from him, but that allowed for Azza to then creep through jungle, find that flank, and the moment it was 2v2, it came down to those kills. So Renegade's able to come back out on top, which will effectively reset compLexity yet again.
Yeah, very tough position. There was a lot of there's a lot of options for them, but none of them were exactly bad. It was mostly up to Renegades to figure out how they were going to do it, and moving quite quickly as a duo through A ramp is probably one of the more safe options. And obviously, it did come down to the trades. Ends up being the correct decision. And compLexity, with their low player taking the first fight, getting caught off guard, means that they win. So now compLexity with 3 people who have half armor because they have a little bit too much money to justify saving completely, but not quite enough to buy anything really good. Are now with Slemmy and Def pushing through Palace to try to get some information. Seems to be the correct choke point to do. They have a great timing on this as well. The one player, JKS, who was meant to watch the A flank has now left, but they aren't getting more aggressive than this.
compLexity seem pretty proactive in these sorts of rounds. I mean, we've seen them push A ramp multiple times. Now they're going to go for Palace, and despite that, massive disadvantage of not having guns, they have put themselves in decent spots to generally deal damage. There's that one conversion round in the 4th where it's no single kill, barely damage done. But other than that, compLexity have put up a fight. So we'll see if they can do it again. Zustillo opens up on Catwalk with the 2K, taps for the 3rd, but Naf will take it. And that leaves only Slemmy. So the answer is no. They will find little success other than tagging up 3. Slemmy, what can you do? Finds Azza to the backside, finds a bullet through the brain.
Another round where we see an anti-eco end up in a walk-up ace, or B-split, excuse me, through Cat. Cat is like the most difficult choke point on Mirage. Well, there's of 2, I suppose, to be able to walk through because of the amount of angles you can see people walking up Cat from. And that makes me worried about why you would want to go there on an eco. I can see why you want to go B because people don't typically stack B or even have players on Cat in rounds where they're only using pistols. But still, they've gotten away with it twice. compLexity in both those situations haven't actually stacked mid. And it's interesting to see that work out so well. Now we have Peter opping window. Oh, and he tries to play it really safe, goes for the wall bang. I assume he was just going to leave right after that. Azza takes the face off of Yaster on Cat, and now they have A control completely.
Look at this. JKS with the next one. So Slemmy's coming in from behind, and he already knows that there could be players here, so he slows things down. I mean, save is certainly on the table. Azza's able to cross from underpass. The next window peak will take it, so Renegades again. 7-2, certainly to be the score. I mean, this round, we see the pace of Renegades just immediately change again. They go much faster into middle, something that they've been doing over and over thus far. But again, playing with that timing is certainly catching compLexity off guard. And it costs them on a gun round. So compLexity's economy still in shambles. What a perfect time for a pause.
Taking those different tempo changes is very important for any team, and we see a lot of structure teams. It's a lot more jarring because some rounds they move so incredibly slowly that it comes down to the last 20 or so seconds, and then other rounds we have the same exact setup, but the split happens in a matter of 20. And the idea there is that for a CT, you're not expecting a rush to come out, so you're not going to use your nades quite as early because you don't want to waste them in a situation where Renegades are just going to outpatience you. And it's really up to Renegades to pick the correct round where they expect this. The CTs are going to expect them to play slowly, and then they just hit him right in the face extremely quickly. The A-split ends up working out really well. It actually worked in both situations. When they did a slow A-split, ended up working really well. They did a fast one, ended up working really well. They've got a lot of options here. B and A have both resulted in round wins for Renegades.
I mean, again, it's a matter of Renegades have played Mirage well for the entirety of their existence. It's been a map that they like to go to. So I'm not surprised to see this on the T side. And unfortunately for compLexity, they seem to not yet have a handle on their opponent's play. And they shouldn't in this round either. I mean, they had that moment to talk things over. They decide to opt in with 4 P250s and the CZ for Def, who we've already seen do great things with it.
You still peeking up A ramp. We saw Naflight be the person to do this last round. A couple of free, or a free molly to triple box to see if anybody's going to peek to try to get whatever information he can, because it seems like his team is intent on going B, and we can see the conditioning take effect here as all 4 players from compLexity, apart from Def, obviously, are now stacked B because they've seen B splits on their anti-ecos. Playing perfectly into their hands, the walk-up connector is going to work perfectly. No hard rotate from compLexity because there was no tells, and just 1 mana firebox to go down immediately. How
perfect of a play from Renegades. I mean, we praised the ability to change up pacing, to change up strat, and just having to choose the right time. That was key.
Yeah, precisely. No, Android's going to be in CT looking for some P250 damage if he can find it. The headshots are no good. And at that range is where we see the rifle versus pistol shine. So, Renegades that round only lose a single player, have tons of money, everybody over 10K. And compLexity, even though they're going to be able to put together a buy, are constantly in danger of saving if they lose one. And even if they win, if they don't do it with many players alive, will be able to be reset by the Renegades. In a beautiful position here, moving into round 11. The op has been effective for Peter, so he's decided to actually pick it up with no armor, making sure that nobody peeks up a ramp in this situation before smoke pops. Is now going to fall back a little bit. A is kind of weak. 1 man there, no armor. Our 4-man Slemmy is over in jungle, in a position that could definitely get smoked out, but everybody else from the Renegades going B.
Yeah, Azza's going to burn here, so he has to force his way in, where already Renegades take 2. Now, Ystilo's been dropped. That's over in connectors, so compLexity have a chance here. But did they decide to go for this? Again, guns have been the issue. Azza sprays wide. Naf will take the kill. He did the damage. And Renegades have done it yet again, because Def gets caught on Cat. Nifty with the op, and Peter has his, but that's all he's got. No teammates, no map control, nothing.
You know, what's interesting about Renegades is one team that you can see just really hates counter nades. They do everything in their power to try to get into a site before they see any counter nades, try to negate that effect, almost to a fault where there was a round where they played a little bit too loose, ran into an op, but haven't made that mistake again since. So their style is kind of dictated by how they view as avoiding the most amount of interaction possible before getting into a site, before alerting anybody. There we saw the molly come out too late because they walked so close up to the bomb plant zone and then just started sprinting, so the molly only ends up doing 20 or 30 damage. Android thinks that they're not going to run through it because they started behind it. In fact, they were halfway through it already, and that's the reason that Renegades are able to win that round. On the flip side, you have teams like Cloud9 who, instead of just trying to do walkouts all the time, will try to bait out the utility throughout the round, and that's like a variation of that style. Either way, you're trying not to get naded, but it's like 2 different approaches to that same tactic.
The approach to this round would have been Peter on that 1 op jumping towards Cat, but he misses his jump, so now he'll go mid in addition to Android, who does have a dirty deke. He's got 2 targets in front of him as Slemmy goes down, finally able to clean up 1, but Ystilo will trade. Now Def with a CZ holds it off on A and falls into the site, so make this a double op setup for compLexity. Renegades still spread all across the map. Timing on this walkout could find an opening. Yaster shall creep behind Azza, who thinks it's clear, but little does he know, he was being hunted. And so, back down to the 3v2. compLexity with a man advantage, and Renegades still split. Minute on the clock, bomb all the way wrapping around.
Now we see JKS in the site. Is not actually using any grenades. Def catches him off guard. If he was able to push in the CT, throw that smoke down in CT, there was no way that they were going to be able to stop Ystilo from crossing. Now it's a 3v1. So originally 2v2, potential for bomb plant, and the hope is near lost at this moment. Planning on A site as the sole person versus 3 players who you might expect are going to be waiting for you can be quite difficult. It's actually going to be kind of open right now, so bomb is likely going to go down unless a wallbang from Def comes out, but it doesn't go through. and you're still going to try to look for a fight.
This is his chance. Def is still behind Ticket, but he's making noise, so Peter catches him on the cross, and compLexity will take it. Again, they come into this round with only the op on Pete. And now they've got a third one on the board.
Yeah, big win. So overall, just solid win. Great shots hit. compLexity bring a third round. They also keep the 2 ops. They move into the next round. They're going to have a little bit more money than... Oh my god.
What?
Why? What? No. What could he have possibly... He just dropped the op. Def. Are they going to spend
they buy
the
another one?
money?
Yeah, $6,000 spent from Ye.
Oh, they bought another one. Jeez.
Now this is one of the things with Yaster.
They couldn't afford to buy another. So this is they saved 3, right? Which means if they save 2 on this round, even if they do lose it, then they have the full set of buys. But now they're completely in danger of getting reset.
It's all on the line. Now Yaster was the player who was brought in when Peter had yet to join this lineup and they still had Desi. Ye came in as an opper, which is not what he was known for, and actually did a great job with it. So to see him being on that double op setup right now, I think this is something else that Ye does add to this roster, right? We talk about him being the question mark. The double op setup is now something I can see compLexity playing. I don't know if he's going to be able to translate that success to this caliber of opponent, but it's certainly something he's done in the past. So we'll see if it pans out in this round as Renegades set up on A. And again, compLexity spread quite thin with 3 men on mid.
Double setup, as you're alluding to. Very friendly on Mirage, where you have all these long angles and such a big rotate. Now Peter is going to be hanging out. So at this moment, it's Ye who's going to be sitting, watching a flank, and just posting for anybody to rotate in. They really desperately want to stay alive. It seems like Renegades are equally as nervous, though, that this retake might take effect. And I think because compLexity saved so early, it made Renegades a little bit more worried. But now that everybody is falling back to A ramp, they realize there's no threat oncoming. They know that they have this round in the bag, and are just going to be thinking, well, what are compLexity going to do from here? What did they save? Did they save 2 ops? We know of 1. Did they have a second one? And then they're going to have a, yeah, it's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough call.
And again, this is now going to be the 3rd time that compLexity been reset after winning a round. Every single time it swings the other way. So rough spot for them to be in, making their job that much more difficult, but at least they come out with some kind of a bye. It's going to be lackluster nades for both Peter and Slemmy, but barring that, compLexity are ready to go, as Renegades are going to spread themselves up yet again. Now, this is the kind of setup, very spread thin, that we saw when compLexity won versus with just the 1 op just a couple rounds ago. So this now is another opportunity for maybe them to exploit that. But that's if they can stay up. Yaster tagged early on.
Now, what you don't want to see, simply because how they lost that round was not using enough of their utility, when they have 5 full nade sets, and they know at the very least, even if compLexity are buying, that they're not going to have enough utility. And we see the deficiency here, as there's only a single Molotov left now that Ye's let go of his, and a couple of smokes. So walking out into what could potentially be a double op setup would be nothing short of a disaster. Slemmy out mid, doesn't realize that he's through the smoke because of that molly, or because of that smoke, excuse me, and now as they're getting 3 kills, Naf comes out Palace, realizing that his teammates have opted, or just gave him the freedom to pull that pin and run out, besides having, apart from needing to actually have an execute. So they circumvent that threat.
We saw the utility usage, the one that you were just talking about, Renegades needing to use over on middle. They use the smoke to the bottom of mid. They just kind of, you know, skewer that defense compLexity was trying to set up. They capitalize on it, and it looks like they're about to win another round. So Renegades with a commandeering lead, 11-3. The big question is, are they going to be allowed to save anything yet again? Because Az is coming in for it, and money's been an issue.
Yeah, and they're getting more and more used to compLexity looking to save every single time. Kind of not trusting the flash there, but there it is, 2 kills. Yaster looking like the man that he saw first, getting killed first. And now we move on to the last round of the game, round 15. compLexity with no op to save. And the real tragic part about losing in those exit frags, they're so important to watch because if those guys end up dying, you think, well, they might as well have gone for it. They might as well have tried to do as much damage as possible, gone for the retake. Even with that 5% chance to win the round, if you just die for no reason, it doesn't make any sense. So that is a truly tragic part. Now, it's 3 CZs, a scope in the form of a scout on Slemmy. JKS, kind of aware of that A-ramp push, but not at the correct timing. Def finding an opening, getting a kill, not spotting anybody else to come and try to trade. Will he get more aggressive? Just wants to pick up that AK. Isn't actually going to push through quite yet. Yaster in connector. A flash out mid, but nobody's pushed up. Are they going to try to do that cat split again? This time they know that it's going to be a force grab because it's the last, even though they know it's tattered by. Instead, they're actually going back to A. Yeah,
leaving Ustillo here next to the chair is just waiting for that kind of a cat push. So absolutely giving up on it and moving Renegades back towards that A site. What I, I'm stuck wondering is, what's Peter going to do from here? Somebody creeps by, sure, he's got a kill. He's got the opportunity to grab a gun and then maybe do more damage. But at this point as well, he can just wrap back to the site, maybe catch Renegades fixated on jungle, with their attention towards Ticket. It's possible. compLexity, again, are fighting off of a massive back foot. There's still so much utility for Renegades to throw. And Def's about to walk in. He spots Azza to the top of Tetris, drops him first and foremost. Now there's still 2 players there and 1 on mid. Def offers up his back, and it's a spinal tap from Ustillo. All of a sudden, he's traded. That's Ye with a kill and Nap with another, but Nifty, he gives it up to Pete, who then, with Android, cleans up the round and will find a 4th for compLexity. They never converted points, but they still have a chance in the second half. So ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We will be back after a very brief break.
ESL Pro League is brought to you in part by Intel, the City of Odense, GeForce GTX, Lenovo Legion, Bedway, Pay Safeguard, Logitech G, Mountain Dew League, Xfinity, and ESEA.
(11-4) the final score after that opening half. compLexity with their work set out for them if they want to make this comeback happen. We saw some great rounds from Renegades. We saw some nice dynamic change-ups on that T side. We also saw a couple of mistakes from the other side.
Yeah, more than a couple, in fact. And in the earlier rounds, we saw some good setups initially from compLexity with their anti-egos, like that mid play that they had going on. If they actually used that on their first 3 or 4 anti-egos, they probably would have got more of those conversions, because we saw a couple of very fast walkouts, and now we're going to take a look at some of the mistakes that compLexity actually ended up making that allowed Renegades to have such a strong half in the first place. And Tears, actually Def, dropping the op, which it's just hard to see exactly what could have possibly happened here. No gun in front of him, probably just hit G by accident. I mean, what more can you say? Throwing it to himself, I think he knew he wouldn't have been able to pick that up again. And now we move into the pistol round of this first match of the day. compLexity throwing a 1A smoke. We're going to have everybody else come out. A-Ramp and Palace, our number 4 man Slimmy, however, holding back at A-Ramp.
Yeah, very passive play from JKS. Tries to pop ahead before they cross, but Ye just gets clotheslined out of the sky and doubles down. Nifty taking 2. Oh, a third off the one tap, but Android and Peter, they've found success. Now it's only Pete left, and he too has been dealt with. That's compLexity to lose their pistol. Renegades with a massive opportunity here.
That's becoming a more prominent pistol strat to have this bomb go down and not even use that smoke to smoke anybody out of the choke point that you're trying to push. Here, it seems like a very open side of the map, but a lot of people don't play CT in connector and one in jungle as well. So it's funny because this plan is very open, and also Cat is not a very common spot for a pistol to play. And there's Nifty capitalizing on Def. Once again, pushing a button by accident, hitting that jump key or having that mouse wheel fail on him. Nice one taps, however, to really put the icing on the cake from Nifty. But that pistol round goes either way. Fine strat. They almost pushed and got the kills, a couple of missteps, and suddenly the round falls apart. But it can come down to just anything, just whoever has the best aim that day.
They're going to flood out of the Palace. Nifty to the top of Ticket. Sprays for one. Yustillo's already arrived. And off of the UMP, he finds further more. Now up close, Yaster's going to actually swing it back. It's down to the 2v3. Bomb yet to go in, but that Nifty is lit. And he gets a kill through the boxes as Azza finds the last headshot. And Renegades stop them then and there.
It's by far my favorite thing to do on Mirage is to come 4-0 Palace and have one flash over A ramp. Have one to A ramp, smoke CT, one flash over, and the default plan is perfect for CT. 4 players coming out of Palace are very close to the bomb plant zone. If they walk up, all they have to do is jump. Very easy to explode on, not a lot of running to do. And all around, it just, in terms of on paper, it makes the most sense when you think about anti or eco round strategies you can use to try to get the bomb down quickly. Now we're going to have a full-on mid setup, a lot of usage early on to make sure that nobody can peek, or if they do, they get traded out. Android actually pushing out Palace really quickly with a teammate to take the A site. Daf as well getting a kill. Very nice headshot.
Now we see Renegades trying to rotate in. Still 2 men on mid. Slemmy finding the first, but JKS will trade. So both players from Renegades now coming in on connector, where Nafly has created a larger opening. Fire blocks him off. So they're just going to have to wait this out. With full utility of their own for the most part. Naf on a smoke fire, no flashes for him. Compared to the grenades of compLexity, stretched thin. Def on the windowsill. He finds JKS. So all of a sudden, Naf, he's convinced back. And it's in his retreat that Def takes him down as compLexity now find 5.
My God, I actually love that strat so much. There's when you see that mid control is being taken, you know that there's been a top mid smoke, a window smoke, a cat smoke connector, that there are at least 3 people there all trying to hold on to it together. And from there, you probably assume that there's one holding for a B push, one holding for an A push. In this situation, compLexity actually sent 2 Palace and had them both walk out quickly. Now I love when you go Palace and end up trying to put pressure on the CT player when mid control is taken, because they are so tempted to try to watch connector once a window player falls off. And in that situation, we're able to punish him because he decided that it wasn't going to be an A play quickly and that they had a lot of time to set up, got killed immediately, the site was taken, and it was a perfect bait to that rotate. And here is Renegades doing similar stuff to compLexity, pushing a ramp together, which is not an uncommon thing to do on an eco round. In fact, if compLexity are going to be pulling the bomb back here, they should be ready to try to clear this before they get started. And they're actually going to fall out, which is quite interesting. We'll see what their next move is right here.
They're playing very proactively in this setup. There was 5 guys at the A site for Renegades at the beginning of this round, and the moment they saw nothing there, 2 of them flooded to both middle and B. After the push on A ramp, now they're falling back into the bomb site. Again, just keeping things fresh. Rotating a man all the way through CT spawn. He's going to join over towards the murder hole. And Ye is about to walk in with a smoke in hand. A teammate by his side tries to save him, but Nap up close finds the headshot. Android able to entry with 2 as Def takes 1 down. And that's Nifty and Yustillo left over. Should be around for compLexity as Nifty is in jungle. 1v4. Hits the floor. compLexity now have 6.
Yeah, no chance there. Pretty good A split. Renegades had the setup, however, and they didn't have any A ramp control when they decided to go there, so it could have gotten a little bit more dicey than that situation, but they did clean it up. And again, you can do anything on an anti-eco as long as you end up sticking together, have at least 2 people together, make sure trades can happen. Like if we saw one player in connector there holding a smoke out, they would have been dead for sure. You still only fell off because you saw one person behind him, decided not to get too aggressive. So as long as trades are manageable, you can do anything versus pistols as long as you stick together. So now compLexity moving on to a new rifle round. It is versus a double op setup with low grenades from Renegades, because that's what you sacrifice when you spend that extra $1,000 on a buy. And with a huge round discrepancy. It's going to be a tough round for compLexity to win. I really recommend that they use, or I hope to see that they use their utility, whether or not they know there is a second op there. And I think just for that failsafe, because better safe than sorry.
Yeah, so little to lose right now compLexity has, so they better make use of it. Slemmy, lucky to be alive as Nifty misses a couple shots on mid. Certainly could have been the opening that the CTs would have used to just fall off of. But for now, mid's now in the hands of compLexity, barring Ustillo, who's still curious over the top of that smoke. 3 players at the bottom, 2 others prepared to split into A. And Nifty's gonna get pinned in as Ustillo peeks wide. He catches Dev first, Slemmy's up next, but Yaster's been dropped as Nifty is removed. Slemmy and Android entry into the site, but Azza's already found a trade. And so we're back down to this 2 versus 2. No one's covering bomb. As Naf walks in, it goes down. And now, Renegades need to retake. With no utility, no kit. Other than that one single flash, they have little to work with. Azza hits hit. He's down to 4. Lucky to be alive. But at least he's still standing. And now they know. So Nafly's just got to get in. They blind the man on ramp. Azza pushes. Naf trades. And now it's down to the 1v1. Op v Op. Nafly getting aggressive a second time. He wants the frag. He takes it.
Does he have it?
No time.
No kit. That's it. He's got to run. What a play from Naf. I can't believe he actually hit Peter through that little brick in the corner. Wow. What a shot. And a good lineup right off the bat. Pretty good stuff. But still, compLexity come away with the round. Now, because they have so much money, it won't be the worst thing in the world that they have such little, or so many deaths to come back from in that round. Nice couple of kills from Slemmy to make sure they're able to take the A site. And are actually quite confident that it's going to be an anti-eco. Peter picking up the MAC-10. Good awareness from compLexity to realize that the money is no good for Renegades. Naf with the op that he saved is, in this situation, you can kind of sit around, hope that they come to your site, or you can be a little bit more proactive and go out and look for picks so that if you die, maybe your teammates can trade the op and look for more opportunities, or you get a kill right away and really make it difficult to get in the site in the first place. Peter entering really nicely into the B site, and it looks like the bomb will go down, no problem.
Ooh, Peter's even going to pry over the top of his teammate's fire, so makes it look easy as he cleans up Naf, the only opper in this round. The only man with a gun for Renegades. So this one goes as expected. compLexity finding an 8th round and now closing that gap to 5. Still a lot of work ahead of them, though.
Gotta say, I quite like the heavier B presence on the ecos. Even a full-on rush, I feel like, is much more safe than a walk split of Cat. Any kind of split that includes Cat, whether it be fast or slow. And here we're watching Peter again enter with the MAC-10. Make sure everything is good, and even killing Naf the Opper by shooting him in the back with the MAC-10. So that's a pretty solid round overall. Lots of buys saved to recover from their losses in the previous round. In A split on the board for this one. And a counter Molly. Death putting in the corner right now. Ustillo, will he clear this? He does, with a really nice headshot. Oh, wow, actually gets both.
The fire creeps finally to the feet of Death, but that doesn't mean he doesn't take both their heads. So 4v3, but Azza fully blinds, able to find another, and Nifty's up next. As he pries in, Android takes 2, and that leaves it only on Naf. So compLexity again, coming up big off some cheeky individual plays.
Crazy to see that. Oh, wow. Whoa.
That's the opening he needs. Headshot to Slemmy, absolutely free. No utility, no health. That cost him nothing but a couple of shots. So now he starts to throw out his grenades. The problem is, how does he get across?
So Molly going to put some pressure on him. Yeah, it does look like it. Will he peek? Oh, knows that it's default. Nade's going to be good. Some damage dealt. He's going to have to shoot over the head. Android happy to take the fight. No problem. Takes Naf out of the round. Looking dangerous, though, with that first kill. I was like, oof, is he going to win this? That was very clean, and Death has been so good. This is just really good crosshair placement, finding both headshots. Took a second longer, would have been completely just immolated and annihilated. That Molly just spread at the last moment, almost died. It's been 5 rounds in a row for compLexity on what looks like could be an extraordinary comeback. Renegades on the back foot on a save as well. Flash goes out mid, no one to follow up on it. And the mid control, which this scares me every time as a terrorist. But
yeah, you're not the only person who actually has that sentiment either. Yanko is a major critic of this setup, going through mid anti-eco with rifles and whatnot. He actually has a breakdown of it as well. It explains that you don't want to put yourself into these choke points where the pistols can prevail. And I mean, we saw compLexity employ this. We saw them win that second round doing this exact same thing. Now, Ustillo finds 1 kill and a lot of damage to Android, but that's all they're going to get for here and now. They're going to fall off of that as the bomb goes in. JKS, all that's left. He'd love for another exit, but he shouldn't be able to find it unless...
And we see on that point, actually, the way that they played it, staying top mid, is okay. When they decide to come down closer to ladder connector, if they had come any closer and the flash came out mid, almost certainly you're on equal footing with a pistol, which is not a good situation to be in. So they didn't put themselves in that much danger, and we don't know if they would have, if the round progressed any longer, walked up to Cat. That would have been the ideal situation for the Renegades, would have been a complete misstep for compLexity. So we can kind of give them the benefit of the doubt and say at least if you stay at top boxes, you are still playing a lot of your advantages, and that you're going to crush and push if it does come out. And if they go any farther than that, then they're definitely biting off more than they can chew, and probably should take a page out of their own book, just as you mentioned, and see that, you know, when a team does run down mid and you are a CT waiting for them to do that, that you're always going to win the rounds or come very close. Now we have on this round's compLexity again going for top mid control. I think they understand, however, that it is going to be a rifle round that they're doing it in, and are, you know, it's a situation where Renegades were in last half where so much money for compLexity, so much money, it's round after round, winning all the anti-ecos and doing it cleanly.
Yet again, standing at the top of mid, smokes on both entries. Flashbang trying to blind the man in the corner. There's still 2 players for Renegades in this position, but Def creeps in and he catches Ustillo. Now Naf's able to trade, and as of finding 1, leaves us back to a 3v1, because all of a sudden, Renegades take another 2. The new gun, Yaster, is immediately removed. Tries to walk out the door. Nifty's got his number, and Renegades have their 14th round on the board.
It's truly hard to say how it all just fell apart there. Mid-control seemed to be working out really nicely. Death getting the opening frag as well. And I guess as the B-split decided to come out, as holding his own in ladder room, another kill up on Cat. That smoke dissipating, and yeah, not being able to have connector control when they decided to split up. Or I think it's when Death was able to get that kill, there was a smoke top connector, but he wasn't able to win connector, that it made it difficult. And they wanted to execute off of that without making sure everything was completely clean. But now Renegades are 1 away from match point. To have the double op setup, all the utility that they need are going to be smoking the top of connector, or the bottom connector, I should say, to watch over it. Make sure that no one can get aggressive on Cat, even though they have no Cat player. Interesting to see a rotate come out this soon. They're trying to read what looks like is going to be an A split as a B split. And Slimmy doing good damage to the connector.
Still 2 players there, though. Renegades have done a good job of holding off this portion of the map. And now they'll couple that with a man on Cat. As of the staircase.
Oh, just a whiff smoke on jungle.
Big gap in that one. Nobody's across just yet. And they still have JKS behind the ticket. He needs to now run. He's down to 60 health, and no one's covering bomb. We spoke of mistakes in the first half. That's one to add to their collection, because now Renegades come in with their kills. 5v1 out of nowhere. Def able to catch Ustillo to the top side of the stairs. Sprays for the next, and that's Azza. But he only has 28 health. Grenades come sailing in. And while he finds a 3rd frag, which was a nice one, it's done. Renegades take 15.
At first we saw that smoking connector, and here we have a man in CT. The molly goes down, but the molly is not a wall, and the molly does not block vision whatsoever. So they should know that all of CT can't be mollied, that they can stand behind it, and likely someone will peek. For you to plant the bomb when there's no smoke down is, it was a matter of necessity because they had no smokes left to help him, but then to have nobody cover him 100% on the position that they're trying to plant for is too much of a liability. You have to. And also, it was a free kill that they could have had. Then they would have probably had control of CT, knowing that the second player wasn't there right behind him. Bunch of reasons why you want to help your default player, anybody who's got their hands busy, and trying to help you complete the objective of the round. So compLexity definitely earned that loss, and Renegades are now 1 away from taking this to the second map under a victory.
That was 6 consecutive rounds from compLexity in a row, now answered back by the 2 of Renegades, securing overtime at the very least, leaving 5 left out to unfold. Now we saw some passive connector play from Renegades in these last couple of rounds, but seeing as there was no mid pressure, I feel like it's for that reason we see them kind of prying more aggressively, throwing a man towards underpass, keeping Nifty up cat, but now Def decides to cross.
Ooh.
Good catch, finding Peter on the cross. 5v4, knows there's someone more, but Def is on point tonight, finding the headshot onto the Opper, leaving only the second. That's Nav. But now there's a massive opening over towards this B site. Sure enough, they need to get by the other sniper. Navfly's already got the cross, but Yeasters afford it in.
Oh, been spotted, taking some damage, is going to molly out a choke point, but they don't have this completely covered. That flash isn't going to do much for him as well. Nap's just going to sit there. 4v3, the retake is on. 2 players in the kitchen and 2 up cat.
Most notably as well, they cut off the man in mid for compLexity, so they're going to have all the control, but Nav switches gun. Slummy hits the timing spot on, and Ustillo through the benches takes it down to the 3v1. It's only Android left. He's got himself the first, hits himself the next, but he drops as JKS peppers the wall. Renegades find 16 and the opening map of this series.
Solid performance overall from Renegades. We kind of see the score reflect how good each team did, and it's no exaggeration. It's been like it was a solid bit of T rounds from compLexity, but they did fall off a lot more quickly than Renegades did on their T side, and kind of earned the situation that they left themselves in, 16-10. So yeah, overall saw somewhat of a good performance from compLexity. A lot of mistakes still though being made.
Yeah, I mean, we noted, those first mistakes in the first half. You think that every single round they win on their CT side gets answered by a reset. Their hands were tied in the opening half, and while they give us something to praise, it goes the way of Renegades. But I have my money on map number 2, Train of all things. We'll see what the gentlemen over on the Xfinity desk have to say. Stunna, this one's yours.
Yeah, I think, something like that. Look, you guys said they were going to be tired. You guys said they weren't going to do anything. They were going to lose. Actually, I'm just kidding. I said all that. But Renegades did come out of the gates. They were hot shooting, and it all paid off for them in the long run there. We did see them, no jet lag. They actually came out and played with confidence, good poise, given the circumstances that they have.
I think they did. I think on their T side, they really took it to the mid a lot, Team Renegades, as is. And compLexity, I didn't think that they did too bad. They did make a lot of mistakes in terms of maybe over-peeking, not waiting for teammates. But they really was hurting on their CT side. Like compLexity looks pretty lost on the Counter-Strike or on their CT side.
Looking at some of that sort of CT-sided stuff, let's actually just kind of go ahead and load up a replay right away. We got round 2 loaded up for you guys.
So
Stromberg, you walk us through.
So this is the round where compLexity actually wins on the eco, where you see Team Renegades, they are taking mid with no smokes, no nades, and compLexity with a nice setup to where as soon as Slemmy saw a person, they all peeked at once and got a lot of kills. You see Azir here, he almost wins this 1-on-3, but compLexity ends up taking the round. So it's actually a nice positional play by compLexity. Unfortunately, you don't see that much coordination throughout the CT side for them.
And the thing here with this Renegades lineup is there are a few players that stick out, but certainly we can talk about Azir being a constant within this team.
Yeah, I mean, you saw another play right there. Almost pulls off the 1v3. He does go down towards the end of it, but he helps out in recovering them immediately in the next round because compLexity pick up that one round, and then they lose the next like 4 or 5 before I think compLexity are able to pick up another one. And Azir in general did really well in that game. I was looking at the scoreboard at one point. I didn't see the final time, but I'm pretty sure he got relatively close, if not hit the 30 kill within that regulation time as well. So he had an impressive game and showed up once again here as he often does as the star for Renegades.
And Renegades coming out with that sort of even showing, it looked kind of like an experience deficit here. I mean, compLexity not really having routes or things, the puggy approach. Eric, what did you see?
Yeah, I thought compLexity, the thing on their CT side that I just keep pointing out is, I remember one time Team Renegades would take A, and then compLexity, they would retake the A bomb site one by one. Instead of waiting for the teammates to come by, wait, for flashes or smokes or some kind of Molotov, and then attack together. It was one by one, easy kills. You could eliminate these easy kills by being a little more patient. just wait for your teammates. It's so important to attack in numbers.
And trying to have that sort of like hero mentality, maybe I'm going to go and get the frags and really open things up here. I think there's definitely a calculated risk to coming situations like that, but certainly not paying off for Team compLexity. We're going to load up round 11 now for Team Renegades with a B explosion. Walk us through it, guys.
So I really like this. It's very short, simple, and sweet. As you see, is very common for the CTs to toss Molotovs, and Azir just runs right by it, catches and Detroit off guard. And as you see, Team Renegades are pushing in the kitchen. They're cutting it off at the neck right there, just making sure when they come right through, they're going to have to run into more fire. And it allows, say if Team Renegades will kind of force back, they could, play the angle game. They're making the angles happen. I like that.
It's all about the angles, right?
It's all about the angles.
The angles. Well, here's an angle
Life lesson.
Here's an angle that I'm not quite 100% understanding is when we look at this compLexity side, we've got like 3 oppers. What is the equation here?
Well, it was Def first, right, before these changes happened, and then as Scrawny was saying on the cast itself, Ye apparently had jumped into it, but he wasn't actually used to that role at first, but he excelled at it when he had to jump into that seat for compLexity, and now it's mixed up even more by having Peter jump into the seat too. So you have those 3 guys that can kind of op, but it is kind of awkward as well having that potential there, but really only like 1 or 2 of them being fully focused on it. So it's created this weird kind of dynamic. It works out okay though, I guess, considering that Peter on a team, it's pretty much a given that he's going to be your primary op, and the other 2 are there to back up a secondary if needed, if we start to see them taking control like they did for that second half there.
I mean, we can narrow it down to PTR being probably the most notable opper there, right?
Yeah.
So ideally, this should be an op in the hands of PTR primarily. But I kind of have to wonder what's going on in that camp. Like as we talk about routes, we talk about their approach, their strategy. What is the real game plan over there?
I think in more long-term, they have to have a mid-game, like an early game, mid-game, late game, post-plant. Just really write down every single possible, scenario and make sure, like, okay, on this map, if they plant here, let's just, like a little more structure, a little more composure, because again, it looked a little puggy. You just got to clean it up a little.
That's the thing. That's the thing with compLexity, though, is it always seems to be the case that we constantly see like super puggy strats coming up. It doesn't really seem to matter the map. Doesn't really seem to matter who they're up against. We just see that so much from them. They really need to get away from that because it's never going to let them go up to the next level if they keep relying mainly on strats like that in order to win rounds.
You have to have a balance.
Like eventually, you need to narrow it down to the intricacies and really get in there and sort of the nitty gritty of like, okay, this smoke, this route. Kind of, I don't want to say put more effort into it, but kind of like have just a little bit more thought out of a strategy, so to say. But looking past Mirage, we see that go in the favor of the Renegades. We're going to go into Train next. Just give me a real quick thought here going into Train between these 2 teams.
I think Team Renegades is going to take this. They barely lost from Na'Vi at Malmo, so I think coming against compLexity, they're going to be just firing all cylinders, especially with Naf. And I'm excited to see what he's going to bring to this table.
I think interesting to note is the CT side from Renegades over on Train was just a little bit rougher against Na'Vi, so to say. But then again, you look at this, right? It's like Na'Vi is certainly not compLexity, so maybe it all adds up.
Yeah, and I mean, compLexity has a lot of CT side issues to make up for going into this next map as well. If it looks anything like we saw back there on Mirage, then this is going to be an easy second map for Renegades.
Well, we will be getting into that second map soon, but not before a quick break. We will be right back after this.